Start. Or my mouse could keep working and that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think they should give us warnings before the battery dies. And it's just all of a sudden it doesn't work.
It's not even that. It's
It's
just,
not.
no, it's
It's
not
still
that at
giving
all.
you.
It's just being, I think I need more memory. People are telling me, no, you don't. And I'm like, I absolutely do. We are streaming and I can't adjust the thing because my mouse won't work. Hi, everybody. Give us a minute.
Okay.
Oh, come on, mouse. The problem is right now is that everybody can see like everything on my screen, which is fine, but I need to stretch it out a little bit. And I'm trying to get you on the screen, which would be more than beneficial. There we go. Okay, start broadcast. Ready?
Sure. Yep.
You're now broadcasting your webinar. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
This webinar is being recorded.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another session of Live Community. This time we are here with Judy Cornish. She is a dementia specialist that I admire greatly. She owns and founded the Dawn Method. I'm going to let her tell you about it because nobody can speak better about themselves than themselves. Judy, welcome to Live Community.
Thank you, Marianne. Yeah, I appreciate the invitation. It was 2010 is when I started, accidentally became involved with dementia care. And I actually thought that I was just going to help a neighbor for a few months, help her stay home a little longer. So I offered to help because all the kids lived elsewhere. But boy, that was more than a decade ago, and 2 books later, and a TEDx and everything else. So the Dementia and Alzheimer's Wellbeing Network, the acronym is DAWN.
I love that so much. So today we are talking about strength-based enabling. Tell me again, what did we decide on the subject was?
How to recognize the strengths in dementia so that you can work with them.
Okay.
I think that's one of the greatest causes of stress. When you love somebody who's experiencing dementia, or you're spending time with people who are experiencing dementia, is not understanding which cognitive skills they're using and which ones they can't use, so that you can shape your expectations and then work with dementia instead of against it.
Do you find most people focus on the negative parts of dementia and that's why your program is so different?
Yeah. And I don't know anybody else who's talking about the strengths. Other cultures we do, but the US, I think you hear the word and your brain just stops working, and it's horror and stigma and fear. And, back in 2010, I remember when my neighbor told me she'd been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And my first reaction, I'd been talking to her for 5 minutes, and my first reaction was, Alzheimer's, dementia? Wait a minute, you're not crazy. And so that was built into me, was just this assumption, Alzheimer's, dementia, oh, people go crazy. And that's not true at all.
No.
So that's what my work is trying to help the rest of us understand what it means to lose very specific cognitive skills. No, we don't go crazy. And actually, all the best part, we're still equipped to enjoy life, probably better than the rest of us who are laboring under a weight of memory skills and rational thinking skills and having to be productive and all the requirements of modern life.
So let's just pretend I've got a loved one who is not behaving the normal way that I know them to behave. What are some of the things that I need to start looking at for this person, and how do I do that in a positive way, and what are the best things that I can do for this person right up front? What are some of the first things?
I think probably the first thing we should think about is, well, how do I know whether this is my loved one is beginning to experience dementia, or are they just becoming a little forgetful because they're getting older? And to me, there's like a shortcut, a thumbnail way to look at it. And the difference between somebody who's experiencing cognitive losses and somebody who is going through normal aging. So as we age, we normally have a little more trouble remembering things. And it takes us longer. So you might forget a word, you forget a name, you forget, the name of a song doesn't come to mind as easily as it once did. And that's because the longer we live, the more our brains are filled with experiences and knowledge and skills and data and factual information. Our brains fill up as we age, as we get older. And that actually is the source of wisdom. Wisdom is the accumulation of knowledge and skills and experiences. But boy, when your brain gets full, it's going to take a little longer to find the information. Picture a library. When the library shelves are lightly stocked, it's pretty easy to find that book you're looking for. But boy, after a lifetime of filling your library, it takes a little longer to sort through all that information and all that detail. So that's normal aging. Now, the difference between the slowing of memory with normal aging and dementia is that dementia impacts our memory skills, not how quickly we can get to the information, but we actually lose the skill of remembering. So what that means, and to me, if you're a doctor or a researcher, great, be thinking about the type of dementia and the diagnoses and all the detail and what parts of the brain and everything else. But if you're like just an average person, like me, I wanted to spend time with people who are experiencing dementia, and I wanted them to be able to live their best lives. For most of us, that's what we're after. And if that's the case, your loved one is losing memory skills, and that means they're losing the ability to access information from the past. And that loss of memory skills, you'll find that your loved one, you maybe did something together. You went for breakfast together. You went shopping together. You made a decision together. And all of a sudden, you're talking about it like it happened, and your loved one is searching their memory banks, or so they think, and nothing's happening. They're drawing a blank. That's dementia. When somebody draws a blank, can't recall, they experienced it, they were there, that they ate lunch in that cafe with you 2 hours ago, and they cannot remember it. For them, it didn't happen. That's dementia. But, this change, we're really aware that dementia affects memory, maybe not memory skills, which is actually what we're talking about. But we forget that dementia also affects your rational thinking skills. So if you go to a neurologist is more likely to say executive functioning is going to be affected. Well, for those of us who are living with somebody who's experiencing dementia or providing care, that doesn't mean much. We need to understand what it means to lose these rational thinking skills. So, and that is a symptom of dementia, the loss of rational thinking skills. And that's why I think we just need to understand what that means in day-to-day activities and interaction and communication.
What does that mean in those things? I mean, just literally, people are living their lives. They're stressed out these days. There's a lot going on. We're all trying to do extra things to make extra money because the world is tough. For me, I forget things all the time lately. And it's not that I have dementia. I'm stressed out. I have a lot going on. How does that portray into someone that's maybe 10 years older than me that is starting to deteriorate? What do those things look like?
Well, that's what you're talking about is being forgetful or not thinking something through because you're under a lot of stress and you're trying to accomplish a lot in a short period of time. Yeah, that's normal. That's life in today's world. Okay, but now I'm looking at my loved one, my husband, my spouse, my next door neighbor, and I'm saying, okay, is this dementia or is this stress? And the first one that I discovered with my clients, that was a huge aha moment, was being able to perceive cause and effect. And that one hit me first. And what was happening, I was with a client, dead of winter in Idaho, snow blowing sideways. You can see the snow blowing past the window. I say to my client, hey, Mary, let's go get groceries. I need groceries. You need them. Let's do it together. And she's like, okay, great. That sounds great. And I say, all right, well, here, I've got my coat. I've got my purse. I've got your coat, your purse. Here, let me help you put your coat on. And she looks at me and she says, no, I'm not putting my coat on. And I thought, oh, okay, she's forgetful. She forgot it's wintertime and it's cold outside. So I point to the window and I say, oh, no, look, Mary, see, it's snowy out there. It's really cold out there. We need our winter coats today. So what did I do? I assumed she had memory loss and I made an explanation. I explained the problem, and that is normal. That is how we deal with miscommunication as humans, right? All of our relationships, that's what we do. We explain. She looks at the window I'm pointing, she looks where I'm pointing. She says, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's snowing. And I say, yeah, so here, put your coat on. And now she's a little peeved. Now she's a little put out with me. No, I don't want to. I'm not cold. And I had the aha moment. Wait a minute. This woman is experiencing dementia. She's been diagnosed. I know she's having changes to her thinking skills. Oh, wait a minute. Cause and effect. She's standing inside the house and it's 70, 75, I think, in her living room. And I'm telling her to put on a winter coat. And I'm telling her it's cold outside. She can't connect the dots. She can't perceive that the minute she walks out, she'll be cold. There you go. That is an executive thinking, or that's, technically that's rational thinking skill of cause and effect. And every one of us has been using it since the day we were born. So we don't think about it as being a specific skill that somebody could lose. So she wasn't being difficult. She thought I was being difficult. She thought I was being rude and out of line, telling her what to do, being unreasonable.
I hate wearing coats. People are in trouble when I get older then, because I'm like, there's 10 feet between me and my car. I'm just going for it. I have a sweatshirt. There's 20 feet between me and the car in the grocery store. I'm good.
Yeah, but then you think about the poor caregiver, and she's working for an agency and she's providing home health. And we have an elder, a senior, who is, a little at risk for health things, more so than when she was back in her 50s. And oh my goodness, I've got to insist she put on her coat or I could get in trouble and lose my job. So we're in a bind. But what I did after my aha moment was like, oh, Mary, okay, but you know me, I'm always cold. Do you mind if I take your coat with us? And she looks at me now, she feels a little happier and she says, no, that's okay. You just go right ahead, dearie. All right, so I do. We walk out the back door, count it. The experience of now, psychological experience of the present, Daniel Kahneman is who defined it, 3 seconds. So if I've lost my memory skills and I can't use my ration, that's another story. But 3 seconds after we step out the back door, Mary goes, oh, it's cold out here. And I say, oh, it is. I'm sure glad. Here, do you want to wear your coat? And she's like, yeah. We get her into her coat. Now, we did not have an altercation. Nobody's mood got ruined. Nobody got upset. I came close to irritating her, but I realized in the nick of time that it was a skill she did not have. I stopped, I changed my expectations, and she and I had a great morning. That's number one most frustrating loss of skills that we don't realize happens with dementia. Number two, sequencing. And this is like, I remember a client, I was there visiting. Husband is the care provider, and the wife is the one experiencing dementia. And he says to her, and this I think is in my TEDx talk. He says to her, darling, we need to go to the dentist. Please go put your shoes and socks and shoes on. No, shoes and socks. He said shoes and socks, just like we normally say to children. Honey, go get your shoes and socks, put them on. She's a little slow at responding, and she goes, okay. And I can almost see the wheels turning in her head, and she is trying really hard to hang on to those words. She's going to leave the room, and she's got to get shoes and socks, shoes and socks, shoes and socks. So her memory is a little impacted, but she hangs on to the thoughts. She gets to her bedroom. She finds her shoes and socks, and she starts putting them on. Shoes. She gets her left shoe on. And then he said sock, and she gets her left sock, and she starts putting it over the toe of her shoe, and this is not working. And she can't figure out what's going on. Now, she's feeling under pressure. She doesn't want to get embarrassed. There's a stranger in the house. There's a visitor drinking tea out in the living room. Her husband told her to do something, and she knows she's been able to do it since she was 2 years old. And it's not working. And can you feel the tension? She is getting so stressed. She's just getting so rattled. And the more rattled she gets, the less her memory works and the less her rational thinking works, because she's a human being, just like everybody. And that's what happens to us when we get upset. He comes into he says, oh, that's taking her too long. I better go see what's going on. I half follow him a little ways down the hallway, and I hear him. He goes around, he looks into the bedroom, and he says, oh, honey, I told you, shoes and socks, but you have to put the socks on first. And he's looking, she's got one bare foot. So, this is what happened. Both of them end up upset. Both of them, she's embarrassed, he's frustrated, he's a little embarrassed. Everybody's upset. They're late for the appointment. They don't get out of the house on time because now she's really rattled, distressed. So it was an expectation. And we have to understand that if you give somebody two things to do, you give them a sequence. If you say, get your coat and purse, that's a sequence. If you say, get your coat, that's even a sequence, because you have to go get something. And this is one of the things we lose when we lose rational thinking.
Judy, let me ask you a question. So
yeah.
Lately I've been seeing on social media things about stop asking seniors questions that, hey, do you remember me and stuff. And my answer to this when every time in the comment section is like, yeah, stop setting them up for failure because you know what the answer is going to be. This isn't a quiz. Life should not be a quiz, especially with somebody with dementia.
Right.
Just walk in and be like, hey, my name is Mary Ann. It's good to see you again, or whatever. So how do we positively tackle something along those lines instead of setting them up for failure with things in general?
Because that is normal in our relationships. You have to practice. So this is part of like the Dawn method I teach, social success. And it's all about conversation. Have conversation and communication, but you have to practice. And first you become aware, and then you start practicing. And I would walk into a client, to a client's home, walk into the room, and I'd say, hey, hi, how are you today, Mary? I just put her on the spot. Now, maybe she's early in the progression, and for her, it's still, oh, I'm fine, thanks. Fine, thanks. How are you? And she can go through that normal niceties. But boy, if I say, what'd you have for breakfast this morning? Well, if she still has enough memory skills to recall what happened earlier today, then she might succeed in answering my question. But but we know she's losing memory skills. So if she doesn't fail today or this hour, I'm setting her up for failure the next time. So I need to start practicing. So I'd like, hey, how are you today, Mary? And then I'd hear myself asking a question and I'd say, I just had the most lovely drive over. I saw the cutest thing. And then I'd start filling our time. So I'd catch myself and train myself. You know,
Or
hey,
maybe look at the
Mary.
menu on the way in the door and be like, hey, I saw that you had oatmeal and fresh fruit for breakfast. You know, did you enjoy that or whatever? But again, you're asking
Yeah,
questions. So,
yeah. Well, but so I call it then, this is part of the Done method too. I teach like, how do you help somebody make choices when they're losing memory skills?
right.
Because that's a big part of a question. Now, this is like, that's one of the things to think about. If you never ask me a question and I am actually able to express my desires, my choice, my preference, well, you've kind of disabled my ability to exercise choice. But there's ways to do it. But you have to begin with the acceptance. This person is losing memory skills. Therefore, eventually, this person will not be able to recall anything said or done that occurred more than 3 seconds ago. The entire past is going to be wiped out. There was I can't remember who it was on social media last week said that their loved one said it's like wearing blinders. Remember the old cart horses?
Yeah.
And you didn't want them distracted, so they'd have blinders. Well, when I lose my memory skills, everything that went before is behind a screen. It's gone, not accessible to me. So we are going to accept the loss of memory. We're not going to set people up to say, here, look at this. Look how stupid they look. See, they can't even remember that. Instead, they're going to forget it. So like, one of the things, well, you can make options visible.
So
Put out a
red dress or
selection of
blue dress, which one do you want to wear instead of what do you want to
hey,
wear?
well, yeah, it's warm out today. You probably want short sleeves. You want to wear the red one, the blue one? Oh, I love you. I think you look so pretty in the blue one. But the other thing I can do is I can say, hey, darling, it's time for lunch. What would you like to have for lunch? Would you prefer to have some hot soup or would you like a sandwich? Now, I know if I know my husband is losing his memory skills, I'll put the word for the choice I think he usually prefers at the end of my sentence. Because he's going to remember the last word in the sentence the longest. And when I finish talking, he's got 3 seconds before it's disappeared into the past. And if I said sandwich, he gets to say, yeah, sandwich.
3 sentences,
So
is that a magic number? 3 seconds?
3 seconds is what Daniel Kahneman, he's that Nobel Prize winning economist and psychologist. He did all the behavioral psychology, I think was his field. Thinking Fast and Slow, wonderful book. Daniel Kahneman, Princeton. He's retired. But our psychological perception of the present, 3 seconds. So what we think is now is about 3 seconds long. And you really see that when somebody's experiencing dementia, because when they lose those memory skills, anything older than 3 seconds is gone.
David
And then
Cameron,
when you lose,
did you say? I'm sorry. I'm putting it in the chat. David Cameron?
no, it's Daniel Kahneman. And Kahneman is Kahneman.
Kahn.
Man. Yeah, Daniel Kahneman. It might be Kahneman. I don't know. I never know how to say things. but when I lose my rational thinking, here's, this makes the biggest difference in the world. I'm kind of jumping topics on you, but here's the deal. Okay, if I've lost my memory skills, so I can't remember anything older than 3 seconds ago. And the caveat is depends. If you're experiencing Alzheimer's, it's clean sweep of memory ever deeper in the past. But if it's another form of dementia, you might have topics you never forget.
And every
so it's
person's
more
different, right?
Okay, now if I'm losing my rational thinking skills, our memory skills let us access the past. Now, what do my rational thinking skills let me do? Well, they let me get jobs done They let me be productive. So it makes me be a really great productive member of society or employee, right? Get things done, like brush my teeth, that kind of thing. That's rational thinking. Now, because that's cause and effect, that's being able to sequence, follow steps in a process, prioritization, being able to recognize that one thought or action is actually more important than another. In other words, I need to stop drinking coffee now because there's an appointment I need to get ready to go to. That's another one I lose with my rational thinking. But if I lose rational thinking, I'm losing the ability to analyze, to anticipate, to project myself into the future. So my rational thinking skills are what let me leave the present and go to the future. I theorize, I have a hypothesis, I wonder, I'm planning, I'm anticipating a problem, and then I'm step by step figuring out how I'm going to solve it. So if I'm experiencing dementia, eventually I end up living in the now, unable to proceed into the future or anticipate the future. All I can do is worry about it, general unease. And I can't go to the past. I have no ability to recall or access the information of the past. What happened before, be it, did my husband die 10 years ago? Now I can't remember. I'll never know. Never know again. I'll never be able to retain it. But when I lose that rational thinking and my ability to project myself into the future, I become unable to initiate activities on my own behalf. In other words, it's a beautiful morning. I'm experiencing dementia. My husband is my caregiver. We get up, he makes coffee, he presents me with a cup of coffee, we chat. Maybe he's reading the paper, maybe I'm looking at my phone or looking at chatting with my daughter, something like that. But I'm not able to plan what to do next. So I'm going to end up sitting, doing nothing. And boy, if we sit and do nothing for too long, we get depressed. Right. And if we get depressed, then we get despondent. And then we start getting physically out of shape, and we start not, we lose our appetites, and all these bad things happen, and we become less able to care for ourselves than we were before. And so many people who are experiencing dementia are diagnosed as depressed and then given drugs. But why does it happen? In the first place, it happens because people become unable to say to themselves, it's a lovely day. You know what? I think I'm going to go outside and walk around the garden, look at the flowers, because I love doing that. I wonder if there'll be birds in the bird bath. And I can't do any of that because I've lost my ability to project myself into the future. So the best thing we can do for our loved ones who are experiencing dementia is understand that they've lost the ability to project, to initiate. Memory skills, they're going to lose knowledge of what makes them happy, what they enjoy doing. But losing rational thinking skills, they lose the ability to do things on their own behalf, to make that, all those little self-care things. Gosh, I feel a little uneasy. I think I need a hot cup of tea. That's rational thinking. That was planning. And if I had the ability to sequence or see cause and effect, I'd go take care of that. I'd go make myself a cup of tea and I'd feel better. So, this is, we have to think about dementia from the perspective of which skills I lost and which ones I'm keeping. And if we do that, then the caregiver and the person experiencing dementia both can enjoy less stress and live a better life. It's, technically, I think we call it strength-based care. In other fields, if we're talking about kids and kids with different skill sets, you might talk about strength-based care. Sorry, I'll rattle on endlessly if it's about dementia.
Totally acceptable. So, how do we, if somebody is reeling and they are sad in the moment because maybe they don't understand what's going on with them, why why are they depressed? Why are all these people around them trying to take care of them and they're just not grasping that they have dementia and stuff, and they're sad and they're teary and stuff like that? What's the best way to bring them back from that, or do we allow them to experience that? Or, because I know it can be demeaning to say, oh, don't cry. Because if I want to cry, don't tell me not to cry. I want to cry,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so what are some positive ways to handle those types of situations?
See, when you have all of your cognitive skills available, when you have your memory skills, you have your rational thinking skills, and you can say to yourself, don't tell me not to cry. I'm crying right now. I've gone through, in my life, I've gone through a lot of grief. I've had a lot of things and people to grieve. And I would make an appointment with myself and say, okay, today at 7:00, it's my time. I get to grieve. No interruptions. And that was me, self-care, taking care of myself. I used my rational thinking skills and my memory skills, and I made an appointment to do what I needed to do. It is my right to not feel happy and positive at all times. If you are experiencing dementia, you are going to lose memory skills, rational thinking skills, and 3 out of 5, you're going to lose control of your attention skills. That's a lot to lose. And it's especially a lot to lose if your companions don't understand what you don't lose. And so we are rightfully grieving and sad if we're experiencing dementia and aware of it. On the other hand, please recognize that we have lost the ability to take care of ourselves emotionally. I can't choose, I can't recall what it is that makes me feel better. I need you to remind me. If it's a hot bath, like one of my clients, it was a hot bath every night after dinner. And I remember the day that my caregiver called me and said, she's forgotten about the hot bath. And I said, okay, great. Did you introduce it? Did you tell her? Did you show it to her? Did you do it for her? Did you help her with it? And so then the caregiver, being aware of what that person truly loved doing and what made them happy, the caregiver facilitated, helped, introduced, and initiated. And so that, to me, is dementia care. Dementia care is, I understand that this person that I love can't initiate and do stuff for themselves to make their own moods happier, to make themselves feel better. I'll be the beauty detective. I'm going to figure out and find whatever it is that's beautiful to that person, and I'm going to bring it into their life so they get to enjoy it. Because if you've lost the ability to go find the things that make you feel good, isn't what you need most a companion who's going to remember and do it for you, bring it to you. So it's hard to say this in English, because in English we have subject, verb, object. And so you always end up with people taking care of other people. But what we're really talking about is, let's be kind, let's be aware, let's use our skills on each other's behalf. And if you don't have memory skills or rational thinking skills and you're having trouble directing your own attention, that's okay. I still have mine. So those stories you used to tell me all the time, you'd repeat them like every hour, you'd be telling me the same story. I memorized it. Because I know you're going to lose your memory skills and you won't know that story anymore. But boy, you say it so many times, it must be important to you. So I'll memorize it in your words, your phrases, and then I'll tell you when you forget. And that'll be one of the ways I can use my skills to help keep your life enjoyable. And then I know you're losing rational thinking skills, but I've been paying attention. So I know you really like going to the Arboretum, and you're really particularly fond of the rose bushes. That's okay. When you are unable to do that on your own, and you've lost your memory of what it was you liked to do on weekday mornings at about 10 or 11 o'clock, I'm going to say, hey, Mary, you know what? We got an arboretum over here. You want to go look? Let's go look and see if there's any rose bushes. I bet they've got roses. And then the two of us will go do it and enjoy it. And if we can't get out, of the house, turn on YouTube. There's gorgeous video of roses in sunshine, or whatever it is that makes this person feel good.
Or fish,
So,
or puppies, or kitties, or
yeah,
any of
yeah.
those things are on YouTube, right?
Babbling brooks, nightingales. There's all kinds of beautiful videos now that we have right at our fingertips. Music. You can use Spotify and search. Like, you can search genre until you see your loved one react to that one song. Make a note. And then save that one into a playlist. Now watch, play other genre and see. There's going to be maybe half a dozen songs that really move us from a lifetime lived.
And I
You
will
never know.
repeat this over and over and over for people. I tell people all the time that before dementia starts, or as soon as they're diagnosed with this, start making a list of things, especially music, that person really enjoys.
Yes.
And make a list of the music the person does not enjoy. For me,
Right.
if I had dementia and somebody was in there playing the Beatles all the time or something like that, I would go further. That would just drive me up the wall, and I'd be frustrated and upset. And you would think that music wasn't calming me. Well, no, because it's the type of music you're playing.
That's right.
So start making playlists on Spotify of music that that person enjoys, while they're able to help you make those choices, so that you can say, look, in 10 years from now, if you can't remember your favorite music, I can remember it for you because it's saved in a playlist. And I know not to play Billy Joel if you don't like Billy Joel, or whatever the case may be, because that's just going to frustrate somebody.
Oh, boy, but there's specific songs that we associate, music, but then there's smells too. Not everybody loves lavender. I mean, it's just not my favorite. But if if you're going to pipe lavender scent into my home, boy, yeah, you're going to get some exit seeking.
If someone hated me, that's how they would drive me insane for the rest of my life, is to put lavender around me, or the color lavender around me.
Or the color. Yeah.
I don't like either. I don't like either.
Yeah. I mean, So it's really important. Now, there's one piece of software out right now called After Cloud, and they're based in Britain. Darren Evans started it. Great people, great company. You can use After Cloud to save all of this information. There's another one coming out of Canada called EchoBox, and they're aiming at the corporate world to try to help long-term care isolate and find the things that each individual person finds beautiful. Because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about, in all of my senses, what I can see, hear, taste, smell, or touch. There's fabrics that just make my skin crawl. So don't put jersey sheets on my bed, or you'll have me refusing to go to bed at night. And this, the whole thing about this dementia-related behaviors, I've been speaking against dementia-related behaviors for 14 years now. That's nonsense. When I raised kids, I raised 3 boys, and every day of the week before noon, I had exit-seeking wandering, combative behavior, confabulation. What else do we nail as dementia-related? And every one of those behaviors was exhibited by a young human, a human being, who was stressed. Somebody needed a nap. Somebody needed a snack. When we do those things, it's not because we've been diagnosed with a disease. It's because we are stressed. And what could be more stressful than losing memory skills and rational thinking skills? I mean, I look at, with my clients, that very first client across the street. Now, I wish I could call people by their actual names, but we'll call her Mary. I'll never forget standing there on the front, on her, I'd walked across the street to say hello and introduce myself. And she said, "You can tell me your name." She's standing there holding the hose, and she's timing it. She's timing herself so that she knows how long to water the tomato plants. And she says, "You can tell me your name, but boy, I'm going to forget. The thing I'm best at is forgetting. I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 8 years ago." And as I stood there and talked to her, I was, when she said Alzheimer's, my brain said crazy. And the longer I stood there and talked with her, and the more I thought, like, wait a minute, this woman is not crazy.
No, and
She
she was
is
cognitive enough to
brilliant.
tell you 8 years ago.
Well, she's brilliant. I
Yeah.
mean, I look at what my clients would do. You know, some of the stories I put into Dementia with Dignity or into even the Dementia Handbook. You know, I had a client who she lost the ability to sequence or perceive cause and effect. Here's how that plays out in real life if you're a caregiver. We come back, like she was getting care, not full-time care at that point. We come in, or the caregiver comes in. I can't remember who, Heike, I think. But caregiver comes into the apartment, and on the bathroom floor is a pair of wet Depends that have clearly been cut off. This is dangerous, right? We've got somebody who's got shaky hands and been diagnosed with dementia, and they're using scissors that close to that femoral artery. Oh, no, this is not good. Should we just like take all the sharp objects out of the building? Well, wait a minute, let's see what's going on. So we figure out what's going on. She's very fastidious. She has recently begun to have continence problems. She finds herself sitting in her favorite chair, feeling a little damp. Not okay. She gets up and she goes straight into the bathroom, sits down, uses a toilet, and now she's in the bathroom and she's looking down, and she's got a problem. She wants to get rid of the wet Depends and just be wearing her dry pants. Okay, now she lacks cause and effect because it hasn't occurred to her that those dry pants will be wet again very soon due to the fact that is now incontinent. But her biggest problem as she's sitting there on the toilet is trying to figure out, well, how do I get the Depends off and my pants up? Now, there is nothing crazy about her way that she solved her problem. I think it was ingenious. She thinks, I've been sewing and quilting my whole life. I've got my quilting scissors. They're in the other room. They're in the spare room. I could just my pants are down, but I can just go into the other room and cut these wet Depends off with scissors and pull my pants up. Problem solved. Now that's brilliant. That is not crazy. That's really smart. And so she does. But then, of course, about an hour later, she finds herself sitting in her favorite chair in a pair of wet pants with no Depends because she lacked cause and effect as well. So, we talk about how do we help somebody not drive when they've been diagnosed with dementia. And actually, that's more about attention skills and management of attention skills than a diagnosis of dementia. But how do we help somebody, not get into trouble in the kitchen, slip and fall in a bathroom? How do we help people stay safe once they've gone through, we know they're losing skills? How do you do it? You understand which skills they have and which ones they don't have, and you work with the ones they have. So you can't explain or teach how to begin working with somebody as they go through this massive change in cognitive skills. Can't do it in a couple of minutes. You can't do it in an hour. When we teach families, we spend about 12 hours with a family over 8 weeks, because it takes practice. First, you have to be aware. It's like, wait a minute, humans, cause and effect, that's a skill. That's a skill I could lose. The ability to see the importance of one thing, that something is more important than another thing. Has anybody ever considered what it would be like to live without the ability to weigh and calculate what's more important? But one of the most primary mistakes we make with our loved ones when they're experiencing dementia is we know what the neurologists say. We know the neurologist says they're losing executive functions, but we haven't actually translated that into function, into what happens. And if I've lost the ability to analyze, to compare and contrast, to see progressions, sequencing, to see importance, grading, how am I ever going to understand an explanation? Right?
Right.
Mary, my friend Mary, who wouldn't put on her coat. What if I decided I'd just explain it? Mary, come on. It's Idaho. It's December. You can see the snow blowing sideways. Therefore, you need to put your coat on because we're leaving. She would have gotten madder and madder. We would have ended up with an altercation, especially if I was her daughter. She would have been madder quicker. And I would have been demanding she use skills she no longer had. And so it really takes time and practice to begin to teach yourself this person can't understand explanations. Doesn't matter how simple my words, doesn't matter how slowly I say it, doesn't matter what language I say it in. If they've lost the ability to organize information, they'll never be able to understand an explanation again. So I have to find a different way to communicate. I have to find a different way to get the two of us doing what needs to be done together.
Because brutality obviously does not work in life. Rationally, when someone doesn't have those skills, isn't going to work. You can maybe rationalize with a 3-year-old, but not with a person that has Alzheimer's. So
and we have to be careful because the person who's experiencing dementia, Alzheimer's, you don't see that loss of rational thinking skills for a long time, but most dementias you do. You see it early, and actually, like FTD and cardiovascular disease is kind of random because you never know what part of the brain got affected by high or low blood pressure. But the this ability to understand explanations or to be able to compare my version of reality with your version of reality. That's the other biggie. Don't correct me. Don't tell me what's true, because if I can't compare and contrast, if I can't use prioritization, if I don't even have memory skills to know what happened 10 minutes ago, how am I ever going to clue in, so to speak, and perceive reality the way I used to, or the way you still do? Right. So we got, in the end, I think it's not about evidence-based studies. It's not about research. If you're a researcher, if you're medical, go for it. Please help us. But if you just love somebody who's experiencing dementia, or you're living or working with people who are experiencing dementia, you got to think about it from the perspective of what they can and can't do, just like we do for everybody. When I was an attorney talking with my clients, I was always assessing, okay, what's this person really want? What's this person really capable of? Okay, that tells me what I should be pursuing for them. As a parent, what's this young man's abilities at present? And my expectations changed according to my children's changing abilities. Right. So why aren't we doing the same thing when somebody's aging and we begin to see that pronounced loss of skills that dementia brings? We should be saying, okay, all right, mom can't see, she can't grade information, she can't compare and contrast, so she'll never again understand something is important. No cause and effect, she's not going to be able to perceive risk. Okay, I got to figure out I got to learn different ways to communicate with her. And it's all about, same as anything in human interactions, relationships, it's all about partnering and being with as a teammate. Okay, what can we do? Do you mind if I just take your coat? Because you know me, I'm always going, oh yeah, sure, honey, you go ahead. All right, let's see. We need to gotta get to this doctor's appointment, but she's drinking her coffee. What can we do? What can I do that would seem better to Judy than her cup of coffee? Yeah.
Maybe I'd be like, hey, let's put that in a to-go cup.
Right, yeah. Hey, and that would work. Hey, Judy, can I warm your coffee up for you? And I'm going to put it in this to-go cup so you have more for later. Oh, okay. And now let's take that into the bathroom because you know what, Mom, Judy, you've got a little something. Let's go fix that. Okay, now the coffee's come with us to the bathroom and they're like, Judy, Mom, I think you look prettier in that other shirt. Would you let's try that one. You don't have to tell me that Mom, you spilled your coffee. Yeah, you got coffee stains in the front of that shirt. You need to change it. Because if you do that and you're my daughter or you're my husband, you're going to be like, yeah, no. And then you're going to be late for that appointment because now you got me saying no forevermore. So, but
Yeah, I spilled coffee on my favorite T-shirt a couple of weeks ago. My daughter was here, and I didn't realize it. And she was like, you've got coffee on your T-shirt, and I was like, yeah, I know. I dropped a little bit. And she goes, no, like a lot, Mom. and
yeah,
and I looked down, and I went, oh yeah, a lot. But
hello.
if I had dementias of some sort, that probably that rational of like looking down and realizing like, oh, I did spill a whole lot on me, and I was like, you know what, maybe it's time for this T-shirt to go in the trash. And she was like, it's bin time, Mom. And I'm like, okay, fine, I get it. But again, that would have annoyed me if I had dementia, right? Possibly.
Well, maybe so, but it's just us being humans, and it depends on our personalities, and it depends on the relationship. And it depends on your daughter and your relationship, because there's a whole lot of baggage that goes behind that. Maybe she's always gotten on you about your clothes, or maybe it's your husband and a wife, and there's those little hot topics that you want to avoid. And he starts saying, you have to, you must, you need to, you should, you can't, you must, you shouldn't, you can't drive, all of those kind of things. You're going to get a reaction. Either I'm going to be embarrassed, I'm going to be frustrated, I'm going to be angry, I'm going to be irritated. I mean, if we don't work with somebody's skills and we put them on the spot, you get one of those stress reactions. And boy, if you're stressing out the person who's experiencing dementia, you're going to have a lot more stress yourself. It's like anything. If you have a dog and you expect it to behave like a plant, you're going to have destruction in the house. You're going to have problems. If you have plants and you don't water them, you're going to have dead plants. If you have human relationships, it doesn't matter what we're diagnosed with or not diagnosed with. We need to recognize what we're able to do and what we need. And that comes down to just paying attention and being kind. And it's really hard to pay attention and be kind when you're exhausted.
And that's a whole other subject of caregiver respite and self-care and everything else. So I think this is a great spot for us to wrap it up today, Judy. I thank you so much for your wisdom, your infinite wisdom at that. And I look forward to having another conversation with you about dementia and positive caregiving and how we, maybe even next time, let's talk about how do we take care of our caregivers, because I know there's a lot of caregivers out there that are just exhausted and don't have the ability to take a break or to introduce someone to take a break for them or whatnot. So let's work on maybe like in the future having another conversation about that type of situation.
Sure. Sounds good. Yep.
So, all right, everybody. Judy Cornish of The Dawn Method. Look her up. It's thedawnmethod.com. And all of her contact information's on her site. Go to TEDx, her even on her website. You'll find the link for her TED Talk on there, which I watched last night, finally. Judy is part of the HIP Senior. She helps keep the HIP Senior free for all seniors. And so I was short-sighted in not going and seeing this TED Talk of hers sooner. So I'm glad that I did that last night as well. I encourage you to do the same, especially if you're a caregiver or you're dealing with a loved one that has dementia in any situation. Reach out to Judy and let's have some positive conversations about positive caregiving. Judy, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Have a great day.
Yep. You too.
The recording has been stopped.
And we're off.
We are now off.